That was great. We saw yesterday so many different voices, all stakeholders represented, and clearly the message is one of optimism and working together to overcome challenges, but in clearly a positive way. I enjoyed yesterday, I have to say, and looking forward to what we're going to hear and see today as well. So today we're going to start by looking at the general market situation. In a few minutes, I'll introduce our panel, but first we are going to kick off with a presentation by Gianpiero Genovesi. He's the head of unit at the European Commission Joint Research Centre. Gianpiero, please come join us. Floor is all yours.
Introduction.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's a double honor for me to be here today and to open the day with this first presentation. A very important one, as we have to set the grounds for the discussion that will follow later on in the different sessions. So today I will talk to you about macroeconomic assumptions, our projections up to 2031, the end of the decade, and introduce you to a simulation we have run in the Joint Research Center in Seville, a what-if scenario on reduced fats consumption. You can find the details and also other simulations on what-if scenario in the report, of course. So let's go straight ahead to the macroeconomic assumptions. I will show you the first 5, the most important one. So if you can go ahead. Ahead, thank you. Ahead, thank you. Okay, let's start straight ahead with the energy, exchange rate, and population growth. So later on, I will come to gross domestic products, GDP, variation, and consumer prices. So these are important, these 5 indicators, because they are connected directly or indirectly to our food sector, agri-food sector. And it's important to look at the general status of the economy. So all the data you can see here are coming from existing data, of course, up to today, basically, and with projections coming from the AMICO, the Global Insight Markets, and also assumption based on the OECD FAO outlook. And then, of course, an elaboration of the groups working in DG AGRI and in Seville, generating the outlook projections. So let's start with the crude oil price. So you see here the quotation for the Brent crude oil price. What strikes us is this dip, of course, in 2020, the year of the lockdown, generalized, and the year where the economy basically stopped at world level. So you can see in the blue line the dip reached by the quotation of oil. The same you see in the green line, the quotation for gas. So in the last year with a similar dynamic. And then later on, which is today basically 2021, higher prices skyrocketing compared to the previous year, basically 91% more for natural gas prices, 36% more for crude oil price. And for the next year to come, what we foresee is a general slight decrease of oil prices due also of the gradual introduction of renewables. And then a growth again due to the increasing the growth of the economy and the increasing also of the demand at world level, but not to, let's say, so high level compared to the previous decades. As for the exchange rate is important, of course, for the competitiveness of our sector in the world trade. And you see that today the exchange dollar euro is at 1.13. We expect it to go to increase again, so to an appreciation of the euro up to 1.2, and then a slight stabilization. As far as the population growth is concerned, so the data are based on the United Nations data, and you see the graph on the extreme right, I think. No, sorry, on my right. And you see that basically the rate of growth of the population is decreasing if we compare this decade with previous ones. And also what strikes us is that in Europe, the population is not growing, so basically is consolidating. or even slightly decreasing. But as a whole, the world population is growing. For instance, in Africa, we expect a growth of 25% in the next years. What does it mean for our sector? It means more food demands. So you can go ahead, please. So let's go now to the main indicator, the GDP of the economy, of the global economy. So you see here a comparison of different areas of the world. Europe is the green line. You see the dip in all the economies of the world during the COVID periods. And then again, a strong recuperation. For instance, in Europe, we were at minus 5.7% in 2020, and now we are increasing at 5% in 2021. And again, we will stay at higher level at 4.3 in 2022. Later on, we expect to stabilize still at positive values in a way that we will continue a slight and slow but continuous recovery of what we lost during the lockdown periods. On the other chart, you can see a confrontation of our own projections last year, and using an index with base 2019, this is to show how can evolve the GDP comparing to the pre-COVID situation. So you see the green line is what we have put in our baseline. Basically, after the dip, we have this good news. We have a higher increase recuperation, a faster recuperation expected toward the pre-COVID projections, also due to the beneficial effects of the next generation funds, basically. Next, please. So last but not least, what will happen with the consumer price, so the capacity of buying of our consumers. So we are in the period of inflation. So inflation that is at a level that we experienced basically 10 years ago. So it's quite a long time ago. We couldn't see these levels. This inflation is boosted by, of course, the price of the energy, the higher price, also the recuperation and the restart of the HoReCa sector, so increasing the demands. And what we see is that the inflation will adjust, will decrease again, and then stabilize to lower level below the 2%. So now, I finished with the first part, which is just to introduce you these macroeconomics indicators. In the report, you find also an analysis on the uncertainties. For instance, on the oil price, we know that there is a lot of uncertainty. What we have put in our baseline is just, let's say, the average, what we can expect, projecting average, if no major shock or geopolitical situation can disrupt the oil market. So what is the uncertainty on the oil is very high. So for the future years, it can range between $120 down to $40 per barrel. This is just an example. And you can find some details in the reports about the uncertainty, how we deal with it and how we quantify it. So I think I'm ready for the second part of my presentation. So I will introduce you to a simulation, which is what would happen if we reduced fats consumption in Europe. Basically, dietary shifts to more healthy foods. So the idea was to explain a possible, the next please, next slides. To put into number a recommendation of the World Health Organization about reducing the fat consumption to a maximum of 30% of our calorie intake. So the reasons are, of course, related to health, so to the possible consequences of fats on our health, because they can be related to heart diseases, diabetes, cancers, and so on. So what is the background? Can you go to the next slide, please? So we started from the food consumption data available from FAO and OECD. We transformed the data into calorie intake per capita, and we looked at, let's say, macronutrients related to this calorie intake per capita for the European citizen. And you see on the pie charts, basically the contribution of the fats to this calorie intake and to the baseline. So basically, if nothing will change, if we continue our diets as we do, the contribution of fats is shared according to the colors you see there. So 43% would come from vegetable oils, which means from rapeseed, sunflower, maize, soy, palm oil as well. Olive oil is not included in this category. 22% from dairy products, especially butter and cheese, and then the 12% from the pig meat. So the three categories together would account for 77% of the fat intake of a normal European citizen. Now, if we go to the next slides, here we shocked the system, so we decreased linearly the baseline until to reach the 30% of fat intake. If we go again to the macronutrients, what we can see is that basically this would result in a drop of supply in calorie of 304 calories per person, which is 9% less. However, what you can see on the let's say on the pie where it is marked 30% for the fat parts, the yellow parts. So this is the graph after shocking the system. So the result of the simulation, you see that the importance of carbohydrates and of the other let's say macronutrients, proteins as well, increases because they, in a way, they substitutes the lack of fats. The reduced fats. And it means also that the calories, the average calories, despite decreasing, still are, let's say, at high number high number available for the European citizens. So let's now look at the market effects, which is what is interesting for us today. So first of all, let's have a look to the vegetable. Can you change the slide, please? To the vegetable oils, which is the most affected class. So you see that if you look at the consumption bars, you can see that straight ahead we have 70% less consumption, which means also reduced production by 2.2%. But this is completely compensated by increased export at 53%, reduced import at 27%, and with a minus 27%, which means a net trade improvement by 61%. And by the way, the EU would become an exporter of sunflower oil by the end of the decade, according to this simulation. If we look at the dairy products sector, we can see that the most affected class would be cheese, with a reduction in consumption by 19%. So also the production would increase, and again, export and imports would change dramatically, especially for butter. So 80% more export of butter, 57% less of imports of butter. Latest category, most affected pig meat. So here you see again a consumption reduced by 19%, affecting the production by 3%. Exports, however, would increase by 78%, which would be good news, and the net trade improving up to 82%. Of course, all these driven by changes in prices. You see on the other charts that the prices would decrease, not only at European level, but also with an effect at world level. So what are the concluding remarks we can extract from this simulation? That's a lower consumption of fat in the EU would lower prices, benefit medium-term trade balances without compromising domestic production, with the exception of cheese that would be down by 19%, and calorie supply to a large extent would remain the same for the European citizen. Another important indirect effect is the emissions impacts, because according to this, for instance, herds will decrease and the EU agriculture emissions would fall by 1.2%. So with this, I've concluded. I would like to thank my team in Seville, who is also behind all this work. So Ignacio, Thomas, and Christian, and also a missing in action guy, Hans. So we hope he's looking at us.
Excellent.
And thank you very much, Brian.
Thank you so much. Stay with us, Gianpiero. So I think we can call that the Commission's big fat idea. I think that's the working title. That was really interesting, and I particularly like the dynamics in terms of how the trade balances flow from that as well, because that's the politics of it as well. So Gianpiero is going to stay with us. We're going to introduce the rest of our panel now as well. We have with us today Undina Afonso, Chair of Continent Producers Club SUNE, Yulia Sima, Vice President of Cooperative Agro-Plant Buyer Group de Productoria, and Slavomir Justek, Professor of Warsaw University of Life Sciences, and Sofia Morais, Group Senior Regulatory Affairs Manager at Puritos as well. And each was going to give just a 60-second or so, a quick introduction, and then we're going to get into a bit more discussion as well. Undina, can I ask you just to kick off with short introductory remarks? Thank you.
Which is a platform that we have in our company. We are the food leading retailer in Portugal, and this platform that we developed 20 years ago to support national fresh producers, we have the aim to share with them knowledge and boosting innovation in order to be more competitive and to make partnerships at the end of the day with them.
Excellent. You're really on 60 seconds.
Thank you.
Muito obrigado. And let's go to Yulia Sima. Yulia.
Hello, thank you for the invitation. I'm Yulia Sima. I'm worked for 15 years in banking sector, and after that I took a strong change in taking over my family business, and I become a farmer, which I like a lot. So we are I manage a farm of 500 hectares, and above that I'm also part of a cooperative where I am the vice president. The cooperative has 1,200 hectares that we manage, and I'm here to give my input on how we see that as a farmer, from the farmer point of view.
Excellent. Thank you. We look forward to hearing more about that and the kind of practices that you have as well. Thank you so much. Great to see you. And also we have Sofia Morais.
Thank you, Brian. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very honored to have the opportunity to be here with you today in representation of Puratos and participate in this conference. For those who do not know, Puratos is an international group with more than 100 years of existence, with headquarters in Brussels, offering a full range of innovative products, raw materials and applications, expertise to the bakery, patisserie and chocolate. Above all, we aim to be reliable partners in innovation, helping our customers around the world to deliver nutrition, tasty food to their local communities. We are present in more than 100 countries, and this indeed enables us to have a global view and understanding of consumer needs and expectations. And we acknowledge indeed the vulnerability and uncertainty of today's landscape, but our understanding is clear. Consumers expect healthier and more sustainable foods, and we are very much committed in providing solutions to our customers that fulfill as best as possible sustainability and nutrition needs of consumers without compromising taste, texture, quality, and of course, product safety. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sofia. You're also Portuguese, right?
Indeed.
Okay, super. Okay, so I don't think we have Slavomir on yet. I will bring him straight in as soon as we get connection with him as well. But let's move on. We heard yesterday and today about how uncertain the situation is and how this brings uncertainty to the market. So I really want to hear from you about your overall evolution, your sense of the overall evolution of the food market and the underlying drivers moving those markets as well. And also what you expect to change in the next months and years ahead. Andina, can I start with you? How do you see the markets changing, and what should we be paying attention to?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the question. Yeah, I'd like to starting by comment on the supply side, which means upstreams are our business at the industry and agriculture level. And in Portugal, as the rest of Europe, we are assisting on the same scenario as the one presented by Mr. Genovese regarding, for example, energy prices and the impacts on the food production. And just one example from one of our suppliers that used to have a monthly electricity invoice of 70,000 euros, and now they have 250,000 euros. So naturally, final consumer prices must be adjusted. And again, I would say that in some cases, or in general, science will be of the utmost importance to help stakeholders to reach cost savings. For example, using alternative energies, but we will access this effect in a medium term. And on side of demand, consumers are using all the tools and apps that they can have to find out where they can have some savings, to have save some money. And this can be dangerous, and this can be the dangerous part of the problem when we talk about healthy diets. And you know that in Europe and in the rest of the world too, we still need to work to have more healthy and affordable products.
Okay.
So in my opinion, all the stakeholders need to work closely with the support of the Kuwait policies, of course, and to use science to produce healthy and affordable food, and to have economic prosperity for all stakeholders.
Excellent. It's okay.
And about next year?
Yes, tell us about next year. Go ahead.
Okay, so Portugal is very conventional, very traditional when we talk about consumption. And at home, we identify 7 types of consumers, from the traditional ones, they have up to 60 years old, to urban or young couple with children. So the approach and the motivation are very different when we talk about consumption. And we also know that there is a time gap between what we observe in other countries and what happens in Portugal. And nevertheless, I would say that retailers and industry, the big multinationals, have an important role when we talk about changing consumption, of course. And I can give you an example. The plant-based products, it's not only consumers that ask for this type of products, but what they see in our stores, in shelves, and they want to try it. So if they like, they will buy it again, and they will share the information with other friends, family, and experience. So what I'm trying to say is that we are going to observe an increasing to push from the side of the production industry to increase the offer of healthier products with less salt, sugar, fat, more protein, plant-based, and more sustainable in a broader way.
Thank you.
But I can.
I'm going to come back to you. Don't you worry. There's plenty more to talk about in this. I think in marketing terms, would you describe the family reference as basically organic marketing approach as well, which is entirely appropriate for what we're talking about yesterday and today. Yulia, just your comments as well. Where's the market going, and what do you expect to see over the short term and the long term?
Unfortunately, what we see is a lot of uncertainty. We are ready to address and adapt all these changes. We are ready to modify our structure of crops, to go from farm to fork, to go green, but we need to do that in a sustainable way also for us as farmers. So we need a lot of investments. We need to be on a certain level of predictability. And here, when we are talking about predictability, I would like to touch the subject of energy prices. And the most impact for us is fertilizers markets. we are now in a stage where we have increases of 400% of our costs for fertilizers, and this cannot be sustainable anymore. And what we are facing about this price increase is also the fact that we are lacking the fertilizers. They are not produced at the same level as they used to. For example, in Romania, the biggest production plant for fertilizers announced to be closed just because it cannot cope with the price increase in energy and gas. So what I need to address is the fact that we are ready to adapt, we are ready to change, but we need to do that considering also price increases.
Okay.
Significant price increases unless we have a clear strategy from the EU.
Okay, Gianpiero touched on this earlier. I'm going to bring this back to him a little bit later as well. And just a quick comment on this as well, Sophia. Anything to add to what we've heard in terms of the general dynamics of where the market's going?
I think there were already points that were highlighted, which I think are extremely important towards consumers. The question about affordability. So indeed, we are living in uncertain times. Where we see the prices going up. We also see raw materials availability being quite a sensitive topic, but for consumers is key that we deliver and we enable that products which are innovative with a better nutritional composition, more sustainable, are available towards consumers, but those also remain affordable for them.
Okay, so the affordability being key to this as well. Just some quick remarks. I also want to say to the audience, send in your questions on Slido as well. We're going to bring some questions to the panel in a couple of minutes as well. So send those questions. The team will select a few and we'll try and put those to the panel in just a moment as well. But I want to ask you about, in your companies and we talk about this evolution of food and where it's going and the main diet evolutions that we're seeing. But what does that mean in terms of new products and the impact on your activity and your members' activity as well? Undine, just a quick remark on that.
Yeah, retailers in general, and in our case, we invest considerable time and effort to support and to improve consumer lifestyles, of course. And we have been looking to our mainstream products and try to, with a partnership with Science again, to reformulate many of the products and to meet these new challenges that we have to reduce fat, sugar, and salt. So I would say that we are contributing actively to improve these consumer lifestyles. Keep in mind that reformulation is only one aspect of a healthy style, and consumer education, moderation, and physics exercise are equally important. So we just not want to focus only on the reformulation, but the communication around this, it's very important.
Excellent. Julia, just on this as well, and then I want to ask after Sophia if Gianpiero can make a couple of quick responses to what we've heard as well. So Julia, it's in terms of your products and the way that you're adapting to the market evolution, what do you see?
We see for the moment actually an increase in the demand for the products that we are having. We are waiting to see. So exactly the change in the behavior of the consumers in Romania is not that obvious anymore. It takes a little bit longer to adapt to Western European habits, let's say. It will happen. It will be probably 2 years that we have a significant impact. But apart from that, we need to take care of what's happening to our relationship with the breed producers, with pig farms, because we are selling a lot of our products to them. So what we have to understand a little bit better, and this will come in time, what will happen to these markets, what changes we need to do in order to produce less fats, though for the moment the demand for oil-based products is increasing.
Okay, just on that, in terms of the commodities markets for agriculture as well, do you anticipate other changes in what you produce in terms of agricultural commodities? Julia?
What we need for sure is to do now. Romania is famous for selling only raw materials, let's say, only cereals. We need to start learning to process. And the moment we'll do that, for sure the added value will be significant. And for that, this is a good opportunity to start planning already from now on. So to process cereals, to process oils, and to adapt all these changes that will happen.
Thank
so for
you.
sure we are ready for that.
Good for you.
But only with the support.
I think that's been noted beside me. Sophia, also to you, just in terms of main diet evolutions and in your sector, what are the critical changes that you anticipate?
Yeah, I would say, well, I think some of the trends were already there. I think COVID just came to accelerate those. I think consumers overall are switching from a reactive to a more preventive approach with regards to their health. And of course, their diet and lifestyle plays a very important role here. So consumers have more and more high expectations that go beyond the taste of the food. Food needs to be healthy and also needs to be sustainable. We do see within this health and sustainable trend a big growth with regards to plant-based solutions. But also there are also other areas that we see consumers being more and more interested. That, for example, with regards to gut health, because this is an area that for which consumers have been more and more aware about the science evidence, and this is linked also with mental health,
Okay.
but also with immunity, which are important topics for consumers of today. But I do agree that in addition to these trends and in addition to the role that, well, in our case, industry has in order to bring more sustainable and innovative products with a better nutritional composition towards the market.
Okay.
I think this is a very complex matter that goes beyond that, and other types of initiatives needs to be put in place to make sure that also consumers, when they make their choices, they make an informative choice and they do have access to an information that enables them to make
Okay, so
a better choice.
Like Andina was saying, the education of the consumer being a critical part of this as well. We're going to take some questions from Slido in just a moment. I just want to give Giampiero 2 minutes maximum for just a couple of quick remarks, and then we're going to take some questions on Slido. Giampiero, just a quick response to what we've heard.
Yeah, I've heard very interesting and important points. I have to say that this transition, we are in a transition period. So this transition should be towards a more sustainable food system at the end. But this requires, let's say, efforts from, it requires a real teamwork from the policymakers, the scientists, all the actors of the food chain. We are all involved into this process. And fortunately, the policy tools are there. So we have just to maybe interpret them in the right way. The other thing is that all the concerns related to the oil price are true, but we believe it's especially a short-term effect.
Okay.
So we believe in the more long-term, this will be gradually, let's say, shift down. And
one of the most shocking things I heard was, I think it was Andina mentioned, but the electricity price 70,000 to 250,000 in a very short time as well. And we also heard about the fertilizer company going out of business because energy costs are so high. How do you anticipate that in terms of, I know you touched on it in the presentation, but the market dynamics of that? Can we move forward with expecting the particularly smaller producers to invest when they're getting crushed on the energy markets?
Well, that's not the first time that we have this situation. And I think that the Commission already moved to let's say, adjust and, let's say, avoid that this could happen again. Now, the farmer squeezed between the costs and the prices, which are not the right one for them. And so I'm confident that there will be solutions also from that point of view. It's true that, unfortunately, the fertilizer market is slow in readapting the prices down and very fast to adapting the prices high. So it's something that we have to think about.
No surprise there. Okay, let's go to Slido. And we have Slavomir has also just arrived as well. So I want to bring him in just a moment. So let's take 2 questions in Slido and then we'll go to Slavomir. And can we see the questions on the screen? Let's see what we've got. Hey, Slavomir, how are you? Good to see you. Can you hear us? There we go. Let's hear why we have you and the connection stable. Let's give you just 2 minutes, just an introduction, and then we'll bring some questions to you as well. Let's see, hear what you wanted to say directly.
First of all, I would like to say thank you very much for Commissioner, Mr. Janusz Wojciechowski, for the invitation, and for all organizers, very interesting discussion. And the perspective and term is very important for our future, of course. I think that, first of all, we have a big opportunity to change our policy and our approach to common agriculture policy, because on the one hand, we have a free market, and on the second, we have achieved some important goals, especially in the context of decreasing consumption. And decreasing demand is a very important factor. And I think that this is a good opportunity to make agriculture in the next decade more extensive in a wise way, because we need to find a good compromise between very intensive production way and the need of better protection of our environment. And therefore, I think that decreasing demand is a good way to improve quality, originality of food, and make the process in farms, in agriculture, a little extensive with more natural way of production.
Okay. Thank you. Let me just stop you there. I want to give you a question from Slido while you're still there. The question is, our price hikes are primarily fossil fuel based. How can agriculture break free from the fossil constraints? Slavomir, what do you think? Can you hear us? How can agriculture break free from fossil fuel price constraints?
Yes, I think that this is very important, that in the East and Central countries we can observe a visible process to reducing in diet, in consuming of meat, fat, plugs and other assortments. And therefore I would like to stress that this is a good way to improve quality and better for health diet, because nowadays in nearly all world we have some difficulties with overweight, and therefore the diet should be visibly better.
Okay, thank you. I have a question for Undina. Let's go for 30 seconds sound bites here if we can. We get through as many as possible.
Okay.
Undina, the question for you is reformulation such a healthy way? Would reformulation lead to more ultra processing? What do you think?
When we talk reformulation, we are talking about not more processed products. We are trying to look for clean label, more clean label products. So I think, and on the other hand, we cannot forget that most of these salt, for example, and the fat are technological ingredients that help to the structure and texture. So science, again, will be the key role to reach better products, of course, reformulating. And I can give you some examples. We at Sonai, we already cut in many products. In 2 years, we reformulated more than 200 products in a silent way. We reduced around 600 tons of sugar. So I think it's a way, it's a transition, and it's a silent period that we are trying to do. And the consumer maybe. It's difficult also to communicate to consumers that we are reformulating, because they can, some of them might think that products will not be the same, and the taste, and so it's a complex equation indeed.
Thank you. Let me stop you there. I want to put a question to Julia. Julia, the question is, the cost of agriculture products equals a fraction of the price of final food products. Will consumers pay more, or food chain actors reduce their margins? How do you think this goes?
I think at this point, it is really hard to reduce our prices. So or our margin. What will happen, and what we are seeing for the moment, for example, from last year, the prices for cereals grew up by 40%. What we consider is to happen is for sure the price increase of food.
Okay. Thank you. We had a question for Sophia there as well. I can't see it, but it's basically, why is it always the supply side responsible for healthy diets, the questioner asks, and what is the role of physical activity regarding health? Just 30 seconds, if you would, please.
Sorry, can you please repeat the first part of your question?
They ask, why is it always the supply side that seems to be responsible for healthy diets? What's the role for physical activity regarding health?
The supplier side, it was your point, sorry, because the line is breaking.
Okay, sorry. Basically, why do we always look to the food producers instead of looking to the consumers who should basically do more exercise and eat less?
Well, I think both of them have a role to play. I think there's a role that industry needs to play. I think there's a role also that consumers need to play. It's a very complex matter, I would say. As an industry, is our role to enable solutions which are more sustainable, with a better nutritional composition. But from the consumer side, again, they also need to be, I would say, overall further educated, because I think there's also some overall lack of knowledge that enables consumers to make the healthier choices. But they also have a role to play. It's not only about diet, it's also about a lifestyle where also physical activity plays, of course, a very important role. So I think all of these aspects complement each other. So there is not one single solution. The solution will come by complementing different approaches.
Thank you.
And for sure, those will help to arrive to the solution.
Thank you. Slavomir, I want to give you the last word. I intended to ask everybody just to do a quiet wrap up, but we've got 2 minutes left. So I'm going to give you 60 seconds, Slavomir. Your takeaway from what you've heard yesterday and today, and what's the most important thing that you've heard, and in terms of adapting our food supply and the evolution of the market?
Yes, I think that first of all, the common agriculture policy in the future, in the next decade, should be, of course, changed. And on the other hand, I think that the education process towards consumers about healthy diets is a very important factor, because it shapes a demand in the future. And on the other hand, I think that making European Union agriculture more extensive, more favorable for the environment, and support, of course, if we are talking about financial system supporting agriculture, is very important, and make our agriculture system more extensive but more favorable for environment, for nature, could be crucial for our future.
Thank you. I also like the word original used. New original products will come on the market. So thank you for that as well. Jean-Pierre, I want to give you 20 seconds. Your takeaway for today, your soundbite for today.
Well, for me, the biggest challenge is from the consumer side.
Okay.
From the producer side, we have policies, we have instruments, we have, funds available, so it's easier in a way to have some impact and effects.
Okay.
On the consumer side, we have to
All
pay
right.
more attention.
Okay, consumers, it's up to you as well. So let me thank Jean-Pierre, Undina, Julia, Slavomir, and Sofia for the contributions today. For our audience for sending in those questions, stay with us. We're going to go to the parallel sessions. You need to be on your agenda page, find the session that you want to go to, and just hang in there for a moment while we make the transitions as well. But we'll be going to that very soon as well. So any problems, reach out to the technical team as well. We'll see you in just a moment if you're with me. Otherwise, you're with my colleague Tamsin. But switch over to the parallel session you're going to now. See you in a moment.